You've been on Kebar Station for about a month. Your previous job did not go great, and the ship took a little bit of damage. And so you've been spending a month here having it repaired and worked on. Um, you spent a lot of time on this like pretty small space station, and there's been a lot of boredom. But you've gotten to know like a few people around here, and um, currently you're in the Glitter Spin Cantina, where there's just this like intense, deep, incessant like techno nonstop, no matter what time of day it is, no matter what the mood is, always there's just like this incessant, um, I mean, at this stage, grating music playing. Seems to like penetrate into your chest all the time. And the air is like thick with smoke from death sticks and all these like various alien delights. And it's quite dim in here, and so all of this combined means that like it's a sensory overload, and that you can barely see 10 feet in front of you, and you can barely hear anything that anyone is saying. But it's like the only place on Kebar Station where you can come and like hang out and socialize and drink and whatever vices you might have. It's a big circular room with all these tables and stuff facing around this big circular bar. There's three droids back there at the bar, along with a Verk barman who you've come to know, Fremba. It's busy. There's people kind of all around. And there's like on the far side from where you're sitting, a stage where there's like a four-armed alien like on a turntable who is obviously providing what can generously be called music, but it's really just this same all the time. And yeah, this is where you find yourself.
So Shell
the
is sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say the captain Shara Del Mega is right at home in Glitter Spin. The ambient sounds, the smoke, the noise, the chaos. It's the perfect kind of numb. As the long scarf that she wears that goes almost to her knees is thrown over her shoulder and draped down her back. Her leather pilot's uniform kind of grinding against the bar top, that familiar scrape where she usually puts her elbows and arms while she's drinking. She's in an argument, a friendly argument, with a Nikto over the local pod racing gambits, or gambles rather. And she says, "Come on, he's a snub. Same tricks every time." And yeah, carries on and says, "Another round for him." She's usually a bit too generous when she starts drinking at places like this, but it helps her get away with a lot of ridiculous behavior.
Yeah, he like turns and he's like chupa chupa doodle wah, and he's like those tricks always work, and with like a toothy smile.
As the as whatever she's drinking spills and kind of like starts to corrode the bar top a little bit, it pans away to one of her crew.
Shell is sitting in one of the booths in this place. The table's a little too high for him to like kick his feet up onto it and have it look anything other than ridiculous, but he's doing it anyways, despite how absurd that it looks. Uh, but he's like leaning over in this like strange, like hunched, twisted position. That's like it couldn't possibly be comfortable, nor does it look cool, so it's hard to determine like why he's sitting like that. But he'll like turn over to the person next to him. It's like, all right, so this is what I'm saying. So we just, I'm trying to make good for both you and for me. If we can cut a deal here, it's gonna be fantastic. We're talking huge returns. massive profit. There's nothing that could go wrong. Easy money, easy victory for both of us. This is what I'm trying to get. And they're just like going on and on. And then like somebody will like bump into him to like turn to see who it was, knocking over his drink in the process and like trying to like clean it up, but he'll just kick it away instead. And then he'll like turn back to the person that he was talking to and realize that they've like left and that he was probably driving them crazy. And we're looking for any excuse to leave it all. So we'll just kind of like scan the bar, pull his feet off of the table, kick the now empty glass further into the crowd so it can't be traced back to him as the causer of the spill. And I'll stand up and try to look for another target.
Yeah, those two would have like had that expression that everyone gets when you say easy money, no problems, which is like, that's not a possibility. They've all been through it before and they know there's no such thing as easy money. And so their eyes would have like glazed over at that point and they were just waiting for an opportunity to get away from you and your incessant deal making.
Shell will then look for one of his companions to try to vent his frustration about how these people don't know what good business is.
And Shell would spot the doctor, Maro Vale, sitting at the bar, nursing a strong drink. His long, heavy coat jacket draped around the bar stool that he's sitting at. The stool on either side of him empty, despite the rest of the bar being bustling. And as you glance over, you'll see in front of him, he's got the glass in one hand and a large medical syringe sitting on the bar in front of him. And you figure that might be why people are steering a bit clear. And he's looking around, looking over his shoulder, looking at all the people enjoying the music and enjoying the drink and carrying on. But he looks to be hoping not to see someone, I suppose is a way to put it. He's looking around skeptically, I suppose, expecting that maybe someone's going to come up to him, but looking uncomfortable about that fact.
The bar droid, in like a parody of the way a barman traditionally like wipes the inside of a glass, has this like incredibly fast rotating hand that like and it cleans the glass and puts it back down. What's on your mind? It like says with one of the several pieces of programmed bar talk that it has.
Maro just scoffs with a smirk as he looks at the droid. Waiting for a friend. Do you have friends, droid?
Don't we all? Some are luckier than others. Am I right?
Just nods, kind of smiling to himself, shaking his head, knowing that this whole conversation is just the output of some algorithm, you know. But since there's this gap, I suppose, this buffer zone between him and the rest of the people in here, seemingly, he's happy enough to take the conversation.
Whiskey always helps me clear my mind. Know what I mean,
With
brother?
With that, he sort of tilts the glass. Brother, downs it, slams it down and slides it over for the droid to fill it back up. He looks around back over his shoulder and then maybe catches Shell's glance as he's looking around for someone to whinge to.
You got it.
About
partner.
another deal falling through.
Shell will just like walk up, as soon as you make eye contact, there's like that like light that'll come up into his eyes of like excited rage. It's something that you've seen a lot from him at this point. He'll walk up to the empty seat next to you and just sit down. Just, oh my god, you are not going to believe this. this person that I was just talking. Excuse me. He'll like say over to the bartender droid. um, this guy. So I'm trying to get him to sign a deal. We can get him information. We can smuggle his product. Easy money, like guaranteed. And he says he disappears in the middle of the conversation. Am I the jerk for trying to help him out, make us some money, or is he the jerk? What's going on? Like, these people are just driving me insane. I need to get off this dang station.
Easy money, easy trouble. Am I right? And he like provides another whiskey.
Hey, give me one of those too.
You got it, partner.
So what did you promise this guy?
If more people will. Sorry, you go.
I was just gonna say, as the captain, kind of peripherally, as she's kind of, she's got a hawkish glare even when she's engaged in conversation, and her glassy eyes kind of snap over to the second drink being poured for her crew, and says, "Hey, easy on the credits!" Like calling over like the noisy crowd, which is hilarious because she's probably drank half of their bar tab.
Yeah, Keitra is kind of oblivious to what's around her. This is actually the music that's going on, just that constant thrumming is pretty much what she listens to most of the time. So she is just very much in the zone. Although the cantina is darkly lit, her face is lit up brightly by her data pad that just has several like windows just popping up with streaming code. And eventually she goes, "Speaking of getting off this planet," and she's typing in her data pad, and she goes, "Here," and she pulls up the Kebar Station kind of job board, if you will, of different jobs that are on the Outer Rim market or Underworld market, and she just kind of like slides the data pad a little ways down the bar over to the dock, and Shell, have your pick.
There you go, Shell. You didn't need that deadbeat anyway. Plenty of jobs here.
Yeah, there are plenty of jobs. The vast majority of them are like, take this thing from here to another place. And you know that those kind of jobs literally pay for fuel and like a round of drinks. And beyond that, you're really not making a lot on those kind of jobs. They'll keep you going. But I think you've probably spent a lot of your lives like doing those kind of jobs and seeing that like, that's a rat race sort of stuff.
How do they expect anybody to make a living on all this? Offering, we'll give you 10 credits, go from here to there. It's just.
It's the underworld.
We need something more. We need something that actually will pay us some money, and we can get us something that's actually worth our time instead of all this.
Those are the kind of jobs we've got to make ourselves.
And
you ever
just
see anything like that on this board, Keitra?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, let me take a look. You said you just wanted off this planet, but if you want something a little spicier, and she just begins to dive in. And if you look over a data pad, I mean, it's just like these windows open and close. It's just streaming code constantly. I don't know, Lloyd, do you want me to roll something to see if we can get land a big fish or something?
Yep. Are you looking for like shady work?
Yeah, definitely something that's going to be definitely more underworld-ish. Those pay more than just running around in the Outer Rim.
All right. So let's call that Underworld.
Okay.
And I'll give you a boost since you're using your computer. So that's a blue dice. And difficulty will be 2.
Okay.
That's 2 purples.
2 purple. Okay. And Underworld, so that's intelligence. So it's going to be 2 of these and 1 proficiency. Okay.
Okay.
Success. And I forget what that one is. Advantage.
Yep. Sweet. Okay. So you're kind of searching through, and all these like things are popping up, and you like see this job board, and it's like I say, a lot of like simple like delivery jobs. But then as you like look a little bit further, you can like get a manifest of the people aboard Kebar Station at the moment, and you can like see these like lists of like known people, and then you get this list of like who has a bounty on them or who is like known as a felon or whatever, imperial felon, and you like get these lists. And of like searching through those lists, there's like one name that like stands out, who you would like know of, which is Oaboro who's like a guy. He's a guy that knows a guy. That's like what his job is, and he's like well known for like hooking people up with the kind of work that you're looking for. He's got quarters on the station at the moment.
Oh, you might be in luck. Ever heard of Ouroboros? He's a well-known connection in the underworld. If there's going to be a job that's going to be worth paying anything, he'd be the one to contact. Looks like he's here, stationed... Ah, here we go. Now all we need to do is set up a meeting. Looks over at Shell. Think you can handle that?
Shell will pull out something and start smoking it. He's not actually sure what it is. He just like took it from somewhere in the bar. So for all he knows, it's crazy shit. But he's gonna hope that it's not and go for it anyways. And I'll just kind of like lean back in the chair. If you can tell me where he is, I'm sure I can get some FaceTime. See if we can set up a deal. If anything, it's worth a shot. Better than carting around who knows what for nothing.
If you like search, you'll see that like if you take the turbo lift up 2 levels, there's like some of the fancier quarters on Kebar Station. There'd be like security and stuff there to ensure that the riffraff doesn't get in. And he would have like a suite there, is what you would find. You'd also be pretty confident that you just like said this guy's name loud enough, someone would find you, but also that they might not have the best intentions if you're just shouting his name.
Yes, Shell will like look back to Kitra then and like slide the data pad back over. I imagine they'd be like passing it back and forth to like show like each individual screen and all the different stuff. Might be tough to get past all those security points though. You think you can get us in? Give us a chance?
She just chuckles. I'll get you in. The rest is up to you. And then just kind of on the down low, looks at you, Doc, and Shell, and just like, but who's going to convince them? And just kind of like nods back at where the captain is.
What's there to convince? This is a great opportunity. This is the score that we've been looking for, the reputation that we've been trying to build. I don't see what's stopping us.
At that point, I imagine Mara and Keitra look at each other. Looks like you're the one to convince her then.
Right when that's said, I would say that it would zoom in on Captain Del Mega's gritted teeth as she's kind of slunk down, shoulders down, head kind of down, hair draped a little bit on the bar, and she's like, her and the Nikto have gotten to the point where it's kind of sharing woes with a newfound friend, and she's like, this blasted Kebar Station, my ship's a mess, my crew can't get a job to save their credits. She looks around, and everyone in this pod is in the same boat. And she looks. Can I do just like a general roll to see? Because basically, drinking with this Nikto, she kind of picked him out of a crowd, and she was essentially oiling his engines to see his connections and see what kind of crew he's a part of himself and why they're here and what they're doing. She's essentially like I can't find a bloody mechanic, let alone a working opportunity for the boys.
Yeah, if you want to give me a, is there a perception? Maybe something like Streetwise actually is better.
Yeah, Streetwise would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just say it's 2.
Okay. So with that, it will be 2 yellow, 1 green. All right. So and what? Sorry, what was the difficulty? 2?
Yeah, 2 purples.
All right. So net fail, 1 advantage.
Okay, so you're like looking around, and it's like there's so many people here who just seem to be in the same boat as you, which is like looking for work, can't find any, and lots of like rough and tumble sort of people who are like sitting around bemoaning that fact. As you like try and get an impression of where he's looking, like he looks over at like a couple of other thugs for a minute, but then like looks to some others, and they all seem to just do like a sort of chin grunt in his direction.
Yeah.
But it's not like any of them are like, that's our pal. But you do see that when he looks at a certain Zabrak woman in the corner, that she like does not engage with him. She like keeps her eyes down, and she's like writing something. Is what you would see.
Okay. So does he say anything regarding this at all?
So he's like similarly like whinging about the fact that he hasn't had work in a while, and that he's been sitting on this damn station, and that he recently lost a lot of money on pod racing, like more than he can afford. And so he's like got his like head in his hands, and he's sort of just like shaking his head sort of slowly and like whinging at you. He's like a lot drunker than you, and so he's like he's not as aware.
Okay. Well, kind of a good opportunity for a play then. Yeah, the captain will kind of slink up a little bit and turn to him, hand on her shoulder, and just like an oddly caring gesture as she grips his shoulder, at least to the crew, and she looks him in the eyes and says, you know, if your crew doesn't want to be stuck on this blasted scrap heap like ours, 2 crews make better than 1. We could tag team a big job that requires a bit more talent than 1 crew can handle. She looks at everyone that he just looked at, including the Zabrak woman, and says, and we decide who leaves this place together. Kind of trying to like tempt his trust, see how he's feeling with his crew.
Yeah, he sort of nods slowly. You get the impression that he's like just interested in the idea of like making money, the kind of money you can make when you have several people all working together. He like looks up for a second, and he turns to you and he says, "I'll talk to my captain and see if they're interested. Big job, big money."
All right. Yeah, with that, she'll just like kind of lean back in her bar stool, and we'll pull an electric blue death stick, which kind of mists in front of her face. And she just smirks and says, "And no more pod racing bets, eh?"
Yeah, he like shouts some swear word over his shoulder as he like walks into the smoke.
And that's like the unconditional mom happening as the captain kind of turns to her crew, stands up, going from basically drunk as a duck to sober as a priest in a surprising amount of time. The ones that know her well know this might have been a show.
And when Shell sees you stand up, he'll like wave over to you to like come over.
Yeah, the captain will head over. The death stick not leaving her teeth. She doesn't put her hands on it. She just grits it between her canines.
Yeah, Shell will like blow out another puff of smoke, and his vision will kind of begin to like shimmer on the edges, and like look back, and he is not sure what he's got in his system now, but it's starting to be a little strange. But he'll ignore it, just like shake his head. Just once you're close enough, he'll just kind of lean in and say, "Hey, boss, we got a lead on something that might be good, actually worth our time instead of carting around people's whatever."
She smirks a little bit and said, "Good, this was a work field trip." And looks around at the others. I assume they're nearby, and says, "Well, cough it up. What do we got? Everything else has been trash on this station. We're all tired."
Yeah, Keitra would just walk over to you, take a look at this cap, as she doesn't want to say anything out loud or bring any more attention than already. And she just kind of pulls up on the data pad, and you just see there's a picture, there's an image of Oboro and that he's here.
Once the data pad kind of leaves the like immediate three of them kind of hunched over the bar, Shell will like stand up next to the captain as she looks at it. Like in that way of like when your buddy's trying to show like 5 people a video on his phone and everyone kind of has to crowd. But he's actually doing it just so that the screen doesn't show outwards to other people, so that nobody sees the name unless they like deliberately walk into their circle of people that they've made. He doesn't want people like seeing the name offhand and sneaking up and up to him. Look, this guy's a big deal potentially. He's got money. He's got a suite. He's got some connections. It sounds like he'll say like more hushed.
Can
He could
I
have something big.
can I just check like what the captain might know?
Sure. Yep. You want to give me an underworld check?
Yep.
I'll say to like figure out more than what was figured out already. It'll be difficulty 3.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So he's an Ikitochi, which are like of the downward facing horns. In that he's a fixer. He's like a a middleman. He takes a pretty high cut. You would know that of him. But he's very capable of like finding you the kind of work that you need, irrespective of what kind of work you need. He's always got like a job, a thing. He's got like his fingers in every possible pie, and like maintains like a pretty neutral sort of ground between various crime syndicates. He's really just like a middleman in every possible sense.
She would peruse this and like squint her eyes through blue smoke and be like, Urabaro, odd for him to be on Kebar Station. We should find out why. And ask for a job. Good work, chaps. She seems to be in good spirits. A little bit of liquor will do that.
Shell will like smile and nod as if he had anything to do with finding this person or setting any plan up. Like, yeah, good job, team. And he'll just look over to Kitra. Well, she said that, and just kind of give that shrug of like, I've convinced her. It was all me.
Keitra looks at the doc and is like, and just kind of hushed undertones is kind of like, I think it was more the death stick that was doing the convincing.
She, whether she heard you or not, you might not know completely, but her squinted eyes widen a little bit as she spits the stick out and stomps it, and she says, also in a hushed tone, "No, there are other crews here. We need to take this plan to the ship."
Yeah, Shell will just nod. It's not good to speak around so many people.
It's anyone's gambit, after all. And she'll laugh as if she told the crew some hilarious joke to mask the serious tone. And she'll pull her scarf from over her shoulder and drape it back down, kind of tighten her belt a little bit, exposing the holster. And she would start to walk. Till next time, droid. And she'll be talking to whichever nearest bar droid is at the glitter spin.
Yeah, he'll like raise his fingers up to his forehead and do like a little salute.
Shell will let out one last puff of smoke, a little bit too close to Kitra's face for that death stick jab, before he'll toss his on the ground as well and stomp it out. And then just kind of shrug to the others and turn to follow the captain.
Maro will scoop up the large medical syringe that he had sitting in the bar on the bar in front of him, down the last of his whiskey, and with a sweep of his long, heavy coat, stand up and follow as well, watching Keitra as she walks and keeping an eye on her slight limp that she has from her leg, thinking to himself that he'll have to check that when they get back to the ship, see how it's healing up.
You can make your way back to your ship without any issue. It's in one of the hangar bays here, and climb aboard.
Lloyd, would you mind describing the extent that it's been scrapped?
Yeah. So I don't know what your last job was. You can tell me what that was. But in the escape attempt, it was like fired on pretty heavily, and there was damage to the two engines furthest on the right. And so there's like, it was like entirely black from like soot and like things like that when you got here. And like there was problems on the inside as well. Like several of the systems had gone down, and so like you've cleaned a lot of that stuff up now over the month. Certainly the inside. The outside still has like a lot of scratches and scarring around those engines, but they have been fixed mostly at this stage, to the point of being workable at least. But yeah, there was a lot of like the whole ship is functional, but it's old and it's I guess you would say it's lived in, because it's literally lived in, but also like it has that look of like there's stuff everywhere, and like I get the impression as well that like beyond just like stuff belonging to people, there's like posters and like ornaments and like stuff like that, because you live on this ship, and so it's a home as well as a ship. On the outside, there's definitely like scratches, from like flying through asteroid belts and things like that. So it's pretty messy in terms of how the ship looks.
Yeah, I imagine getting back to the ship, our astromech Chip would kind of like wheel out down the ramp to kind of meet us halfway as we're boarding. And Keecher would just say, Chip, kind of pats it on the head there. So what kind of damage are we looking at? And, you know, it makes this little beep boops. And the data pad basically sends data over to the data pad. And it just lists like all these, even though the ship's functional, it lists all these parts and mechanisms that are worn and torn and need to be replaced. And then at the very bottom, it's just like this big 00000 of credits. Well, Cap, we're going to need a really big job or multiple big jobs to take care of this.
She has a momentary, slightly death stick-induced flashback to the moment when Vosk Taba, the Pantoran ship broker, was standing below this pristine ship, and she was like, I think this is the one. He's like, oh, no, please, not this one. Please, this is my baby. It's like, Vosk. In good hands. It's me. Snaps back. Oh boy. And she looks at Keitra and sighs a little bit and says, well, hopefully this fixer, this information broker, this syndicate man can help us get out of this bind, or at least point us to the right kind of job. But the reality is, she looks around at the group. Really depends what kind of jobs are on offer. We have a certain array of skills, but we're lacking. And she looks in particular at I'm sorry, the pointed-eared one, and goes lacking in muscle. And she says, we have to accept the reality that we might have to work with other crews.
Muscle is for deadbeats. Don't know how to talk. Don't know how to act. Don't know what to do. For stupid people. People not like us.
She smiles wide and she says, and that's why you're on this crew. But they still have a use. Let's try to make friends while we're here. The enemies will come naturally. We are on the edge of the Empire after all. And she walks kind of to the mess area where there's spatterings of different posters. Mostly she's into trashy hollow sports, so she kind of infects the ship with a little bit of that. But is open-minded to anyone else's touches as long as there is a bottle of, fine wine in every room. She sits down and says, are you able to find anything on that data pad of yours about who this person is running with here, who they're staying with? Just kind of more information.
Does he have a crew? Is he part of anything? Any big groups that we need to be aware of?
Well, I can try to break into the Kebar Station database. There may be some information there. That's going to take some time.
Yep, it will take some time, but it's definitely possible.
Luckily, we got nothing but for a little bit. It seems. We'll kind of like look at the barely intact ship. So take your time and we'll see if we can get it sorted. But I think it's important this guy is running with any huts or specific other nefarious sorts, then we should probably know that going into it. We don't want to tie ourselves into something that's going to get us killed too quickly, at least not right away.
I didn't come from halfway across the galaxy to die here on this scrap heap, and neither did any of you. We're gonna get out of this. I have a good feeling about this one, and that's kind of the opposite of the Han Solo.
That's what you said last time, and they'll kind of like point to like the completely trashed ship. That's what you said before that, and here we are on this ship for a month. Your good feelings will only get so far.
And that's why everything goes to vote, my friend. And she deflects a little bit of it and sits down to kind of rest as we inquire a little bit deeper into what we can find out about this guy so that we can potentially link up with him elsewhere. Of course, the cantina would be the best place to go sleuthing again, she imagines, but she didn't want to talk about this kind of business around what she discovered was pretty wide array of crew.
Yeah, you also get the impression that if you talked about out in the cantina, that he's obviously got ears here and that they would hear, and then he would know you were coming before you came, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, I think she would probably like tuck herself into she's not a mechanic by any means, and usually the more technically able crew discourage her from getting involved with the ship's interior, but like she climbs in anyway because it's her baby, and she starts to like do some minor repairs, nothing that would severely damage the ship if she fucked it up.
Shell will like slip up next to Keitra and like look over their shoulder at the data pad. To be like, all right, so safety is the important part here. If we trip their systems, then we're done. Like he's just gonna like start telling you how to do your job, as if he knew the first thing about computers, but he doesn't.
Yeah, she just kind of rolls her eyes. Come on, Chip, we have work to do. And she'll go to the slicing computer that's on the ship, and basically there's a dock for her data pad that like links into that computer. And then of course Chip, as the astromech, he'll link in there too. So his like little arm comes out and plugs in and starts to turn and to boost the signal on the ship as much as possible to start code breaking.
Okay, sweet. So let's start with computers to like hack into the like beyond the basic welcome to Kebar Station. Here are the amenities and whatever, you know. So to get through that and hack through, I'll say it's difficulty 1 red and 2 purples.
1 red.
And you can apply any sort of fancy bonuses that you have to that.
Let me see here. I do reduce. See here. Oh, that's the wrong talent tree.
So you add an automatic advantage because of the size.
Yeah.
And you can actually do that if you go to, I think it's symbols. You can just add specific symbols on the dice.
Oh, here we go. Symbols. Yep. Add 1 advantage. Okay. I see here. I have reduced the time. Okay.
So I'll actually say that gives you a boost because you have 2 of those, right? So it's 50%. So
yeah.
You'll spend a lot less time kind of like randomly hammering passwords. So I'll give you a boost for that.
Perfect. Okay, and I can only remove setbacks, which you didn't issue any setbacks. So, yep. Okay, so time to roll them bones.
Oh wow!
Ooh, yeah, 2 successes, 2 advantages, and a triumph. Yeah.
Super nice. Okay. Yep. So you begin to like, and all these like lists are coming down.
Yeah, she's like sitting there typing, and then she looks over at Shell, and she's all like, "Would you just let me work?" And it's at that moment, it's like she has the breakthrough as she breaks through the code.
He's like the kind of dude who's like putting his fingers on the screen. He's like, "Here, do this," you know.
Yeah, he's like pointing at like lines of code and like, oh, that one, like as if it's like it's just like part of the mess of code.
Yeah, I imagine it's like that scene in Jurassic Park where he like touches the screen and like it flips a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like she like slaps his hand like, don't touch the screen.
So you're able to break through into their like administrator sort of setup, and you get this like secret menu basically of like admin functions and things like that. And so you can see things like specific crew manifests, security feed, stuff like that. The triumph is going to be that like whichever one of these things you want to get in, you don't have to make a roll to get into. You're just in. So I'll say there's like crew and cargo manifests. There's security feeds. What else would there be? Like airlock and whatever control, and then things like life support control, like climate control, all that sort of stuff that you would expect in a space station. Oh, and then there'd also be like security like rotas of who's going where and when and that kind of thing. So you can pick like one of those and get in.
Okay, let's see. What do we have here? Airlock, life support, boring. Security routes. Security feeds might be handy, but security routes definitely a lot better. Crew and cargo manifest. Now that is very interesting. If we happen to know what kind of cargo he's looking to transport, we can use that as leverage. Being in the know gives us an advantage in the negotiation. And she's like saying this like she knows what she's talking about to Shell.
And in a complete lack of self-awareness, Shell will like roll his eyes at being the audacity that Kitra would have to like tell him how to negotiate and just like shake his head.
So she just kind of hovers over crew and cargo manifest, like her fingers on just hovering above the enter button, and looks at Shell for like confirmation. Like, is this the one?
Yeah, that's a good idea. If we can see what they're moving, what plans they got, what's going to go out soon, then, like you say, people talk easier when you give them a hint that you know what's going on already. It makes them less tight-lipped.
And she hits the enter on crew and cargo manifest. Now, I imagine obviously he's not going to have that information under his name. It'd be under an alias. But I would imagine she would know maybe some of the aliases that he's used in the past, and hoping that something like he's going to use something similar or one of the same aliases and be able to call it out. Yep.
So you get this like of like data of all of these people who are on the station and every ship, and any declared cargo. Because obviously, like the secret cargo is not, they're not going to tell the space station about it. So all of like the smuggling stuff, like you guys, if you had anything illegal, wouldn't have like boarded and been like, by the way, we have all this spice. But you can get like all these manifests of the various crews and stuff here, like their ships, the kind of ship that they are, any repairs that they've paid for since they've been here. And then you would get like manifests of cargo, like a bunch of like supplies being brought every day, you know, several times a day to this place to like keep it with water and food and things like that. So like a bunch of boring shit, basically. The nitty gritty of like running a space station that's in space, just like endless streams of data. But eventually you can like find a few that are kind of interesting. One of which you would recognize, which is the Raven, which is the ship that is associated with and like the cargo there is like perfectly like suspiciously above board, which you would expect from him. But you can see that his like crew manifest, that like he's not on it, but there are several. There's 12 basically that came with him on his ship. various like names, and like by the names you can figure out like most of their species. There's 2 Trandoshans with him, definitely, because there's several S's in their name, and you get the impression that those are probably his like bodyguards. And then beyond that, there's like a bunch of others who would be doing work for him, but you think that there's 12 that came with him to here. But yeah, in terms of cargo, there's nothing untoward or unexpected. I guess it's like expected that his cargo manifest is perfect and clean, you know?
Yeah, I expect it's probably like a bunch of the most mundane, worthless stuff. Okay, let's see here. Well, it's definitely his ship, the Raven, and he's got his entourage with him, which means muscle, something that we're lacking.
Yeah, Shell's gonna kind of like lean forward and start kind of like looking and browsing the lists over your shoulder. And what I'd like to see, I don't know if this has that information or if that'd be in a different section, but like where the like either cargo was incoming from or outgoing to. I want to basically try to see if I happen to know if those destinations match with any. I mean, my sphere of knowledge probably wouldn't be incredibly vast. But as far as like if those locations are like this hut like tends to use this station as a front for that service or whatever, just to see if we can get any association as far as who they came from or who they're going to.
So it's actually a good question. I don't know if you would give that kind of information when you arrive, and you can also make the assumption that if you did get that information, that this guy would lie about it. That he would say he like so let's say it is there, and it's like he's come from like a nearby agri world, which is why they have all these like root vegetables with them, which is what they're bringing here. All of that obviously in quotation marks, but like that's what it would show as. Like he's just been to a very above board imperial world, and he's picked up some perfectly standard imperial cargo, and he's brought it to this place, and everything is like clean and above board.
Yeah, so I was gonna start like tapping on the screen where all this like agriculture like supply stuff is listed, like the previous destination was. I was just like start shaking his head, just like no way, no, there's no way that a man like that would bring this stuff from there to here. He's clearly got something else planned for all this stuff.
Well, the manifest and the is definitely cooked. They have a very good slicer. I'll try to see if I can fingerprint who exactly manipulated the logs here. Would I be able to ascertain?
Oh yeah, to see if like who tried to hack this and show the data as it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So it'll be against their slicer. So it'll be same difficulty as last time. So a red and 2 purples. And he has what's it called? Basically 1 setback as well, but you'll remove that because of your code breaking.
Yeah. Cool. Roll it. All right. Lots of advantages.
But a fail.
Yeah.
So you're but you're unable to like get through and like find out the like alias of this person. But what's a reasonable advantage here? Because there's 3 advantages.
Well,
pretty significant.
I think advantage would be it's obvious that it was sliced, but it's so expertly done that I can't tag it as far as like who exactly the slicer is. So I think that's probably good. Like,
maybe there's like something in the source code for the database log that like you can kind of see remnants of sliced code in there, but not enough to trace or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, the manifest has definitely been sliced, but I can't tag who exactly did it or where they did it from. This is very expensive work. Well, at least he's got money.
Money is what we're after, so I'm good with that. Well, that might be enough. She then kind of like look like, do you think that's enough? Try to at least get him to talk. We know that his log's been cooked. We know that he's got something in the books.
Well, we know we've been looking a lot about what's on his ship. maybe he's here for something else. Maybe there's another ship here with something he's after.
You said there's security routes, right? If a guy is this big a deal, he's got to have something planned, right? Can you maybe see if he's got something in those logs, a plan to transfer, a big transfer, bodyguards trying to keep it on the hush down low, something like that?
Yeah. Well, let's take a look. She kind of looks at her data pad, and there's like a countdown, and it was in green, but now it's in red. And she's like, "But I'm gonna have to log out soon, otherwise they'll be able to trace me. This is probably the last lookup we can do."
Yeah, and you'd be wary, even having done that last one and failed, that something might have triggered, like not getting in and not getting through. You think like it's possible either that this station is trying to figure you out or that this other slicer is, which is always kind of the danger.
Right. So is it the same roll or?
Yes, please.
Okay. One advantage. Roll it. Again. She looks over at Chip and she's all like, disengage now. And she's just like trying to shut like everything down as like you can see code coming in and trying to like splice into the ship.
Yep. He does that droid, yow, and like pulls out the thing, and you like manage to just about jack out in time.
She'll like jump out of the seat and like start like scrambling as if there's like some like any physical action he could take that's going to like prevent anything from happening, and then like realize the futility that he is like powerless in this scenario, and just like look at the screen and then back at you like back and forth repeatedly.
Yeah, the screen just reads like terminate. Like the terminal has been terminated, and she just turns over to Chip, who's got like some electricity scorch marks where that little arm is. Chip, are you okay? Sorry, buddy. That was too close. But I don't think they were able to get into the ship or identify us, but they will probably know that somebody was looking into their manifest logs. So giving up that chip in your negotiation may or may not backfire on us.
Place like this, people like this, it'd be a miracle if there wasn't 50 of those that happen every day. He'll say like trying to comfort himself and you, but like knowing in his heart that that's like not actually true.
All right. Well, let's inform the camp and the dock and see what our next plan of action is.
She the captain's data pad on the inside of some wall of the ship where like an exhaust from a loose plasma coil is kind of like spraying, and she's kind of making a mess about it. Her face is covered in soot, but her data pad has been playing this whole conversation. The first thing she did when she went into her little faux mechanics cubby is tap into the ship comm and listen. She comes out, like I said, quite dutty, and wipes her hands like that actually cleans them, and walks out to the mess table and puts her. She's kind of taking a little bit of her uniform off. She puts her blaster on the table out of its holster, which is kind of a sign that she's ready to talk. Always has been. And she looks at everyone and says, "Well, blackmailing a fixer is always a quick way to get eaten by the Sarlacc. That's their game. That's how they play. However, if what we should know is And she looks at Keitra, the size of each container, the type of containers that they've been holding. Like you said, a lot of above ground goods, right? But how these goods are stored, how these goods are shipped matters. And you're also right. She'll turn to Tosca. They're likely here for something bigger. Orm doesn't come to scrap heaps like this for a drink and a gamble. No, there must be a big catch here. She squints her eyes again at Keitra. Do you truly think they might know about us? That their slicer might be able to trace that last entry?
Well, and you can tell like this is her pride talking through. Goes, well, I did have several firewalls there, so I doubt they were able to get through all of them, but that was some pretty good coding. So, I mean, sure, I guess it's possible that they're able to break that sort of encryption.
She
We
smiled.
don't necessarily have to blackmail them either. That's not like you say. That's dumb stuff. But what I was saying is that people are less careful with secrets if they think that other people are in the know about those secrets. They think that they don't need to be as careful around them. So the plan is not necessarily to use that information against him, but to use it with him. You know, it's just that simple. I think you guys have it the wrong way about this.
So she turns to smirk, as if not wanting them to see her being impressed with both of you, and says, "So a bit of bravado then, our form of muscle. Show them what we know, so that they let us in."
Yeah, see, we already know about the job. They got nothing to worry about. They don't have to hand over any secrets because we already got the secrets. We just need the work. And I think if we can go in with that angle, then maybe we catch them with their guard down. They don't have to be so careful about what they say and what they don't because we already know, you know?
And her ship gears are spinning a little bit, and she starts to connect things. And muscle, well, we have muscle too, potentially. I mean, I don't know, that Nikto was half in the bag. I'd have to reach. And she kind of like mumbles off, and says, well, if they know, she turns on a heel, then we move fast. We contact fast. Because if we don't, they will. And she asks Keitra, where are they now? What's the fastest lane? Obviously. And when I say, sorry, she corrects herself. The hand. I don't think it's a good idea to reach out to him directly, but he's got to have a hand. He's got to have a face that we can reach to first. Make that person sweat a little, and then we'll get his attention.
She just kind of like looking at you, arms crossed. Yeah, well, if he, that person is most likely going to be in the glitter spin. Probably that Zarback woman, if I had my guess on it.
She nods, and probably despite the fact that your ego's a little wounded and you feel like this was a bit of an error, she says, and that's why you cost me half the ship. suggesting that to get to you in the first place as a hacker of your renown was very expensive. And she smiles and says, "Good work."
What do you think, Doc? You had been saying much. Anything that we're not seeing? Anything that's going to make us look like idiots when we walk in there and try to do any of this?
Yeah, the doc's been standing there with his arms folded, sort of bit of agitated energy, I suppose, bouncing on the balls of his feet as people are talking. And you've been with him long enough now to sort of know that that'll be his pride sort of hurting that you guys have, been able to exercise your skills and expertises, and he's not been able to be too useful so far to this particular operation. So I think while the captain was in doing her thing, and Shell and Kitra were just doing this hack here, I think the doc was probably looking over his medical data pad in his med pack and sort of going through the scans and vitals and medical information that he has for all four of us on the crew, just trying to do something useful and keep active. But then in response to Shell, I mean, we've now got a hand. There's no point playing that hand too early. Seems to me like we've just started a game with this middleman. Being a middleman himself, I don't know if holding off on approaching him directly is the way to go. And he sort of glances at the captain with that comment, sort of going against what she suggested. Timing's going to be everything, right?
She considers this for a moment, and kind of walks over to the doctor, puts a firm pointed fingered grip on the back of his neck, just kind of like a show. and she smiles and says, "Well, as always, crew's vote."
I think the doc's actually got a point here. So look, hear me out on this one. So any person that we talk to that's not the boss, when they go to tell somebody else, they get to tell what story they want to. We can tell them that we're a promising crew of upstarts. You can tell them that we're a bunch of schmucks that don't need to see the light of his time. So each person that we talk to that's not him gets to twist our words, gets to change our story and change our image. But if we go straight to him, talk to him first, then we get to tell him who we are. Not his goons, not his bodyguards, not his hackers, us. And that's a powerful thing. It's risky. I hear you. I hear you, boss. Trust me, I know. But a good impression makes a big deal with these sorts of people.
That it does. Well said. The she'll kind of loosen up on the dock and step back towards the cockpit, and we'll turn and say, "Well, look at that manifest. We find a point where we can isolate him and reach him directly. If what you're saying is true, our opportunity might be lost otherwise. We find him alone. We surprise him in the right way. Let's not make him feel in danger. but let's make him feel like we're at the level that he plays.
And even if we don't get him alone, we just need to get him first. I don't want people telling him about us. Even if he's gonna have his bodyguards everywhere. I don't think we get him without them. I don't think we need to.
I can get us in.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. See, that's why we have you. Because you do
Yeah.
stuff like this.
Exactly. So we're doing a lot of talking and we're wasting time.
She looks at Chip, the droid, and says, "Up to you, Keitra. Does Chip come or stay? We move tonight."
She kind of looks at Chip and she just pats him. Don't worry, buddy. You did your part. I think it's best that Chip stays on the ship. If anything, he can prepare the ship ready for takeoff in case we need to get the hell out of here if things go south.
Yeah,
I can
we
do
can
what
keep
we
him
need
on
to
link
do.
too. Get in touch if we need to.
Absolutely. How about it, Doc? She just kind of like gives him like a little soft punch in the shoulder there.
He's still got his arms folded. And he just does that thing where he just kind of gets nudged a little bit, but then returns back to that sort of statuesque spot that he was in with his arms folded. But a smile breaks across his face as he unfolds his arms and puts a hand on Kitra's shoulder. Tonight, we've got time for me to have a look at that leg before we go.
Yeah, sure. It's kind of more numb than anything now. I'm glad that you at least were able to leave it attached, even if I do have to wear this. And she just kind of like knocks on the metal brace that's around her kneecap.
All right, let's go make some money. Let's do it.
So your plan, as I understand it, is to try and like approach somewhere where you can approach him directly.
Yeah,
Do-
the less
As directly-
people that we have to go to, the better. Like if we can get straight to him, that'd be ideal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
and like just his personal guard, ideally.
Right. And did you want to try and do that in his quarters where he most likely is, or do you want to try and wait for him to like move from there? Because you know where his quarters are. You figured that out via the hacking business. Otherwise, it's a case of like waiting around in hallways and hoping that he walks by.
Yeah, I think his quarters at the dead of night, kind of like when you're staring at the flickering screen too late. That's a good time to kind of make an appearance.
Okay, cool. So let's take a real quick bio break because I need to pee. It's also taken us like an hour and a half to get to the quest giver, which is amazing. Like, my prep for this was this guy probably offers them a quest. Like, here we are. Which is great. Okay, let's take a real quick break. We'll be back in like 3. Yeah. So much scheming. I love it.
This crew is already so great.
Yep.
They're just the worst and the best.
Yeah. Dude, Shell is the worst I've ever seen. Just the shittiest dude
that was
ever.
yeah. That was the goal of like I just want to start off as just like every like bad car salesman and stockbroker mixed together in the criminal underworld. Like just terrible. But like still just good enough at what he does to like have to suffer through.
The idea of him like with this like expert hacker like pointing at the screen and being like, "Do this, go away, you little idiot." Okay, so I think we're all back. So, oh wait, is Matt here? Not yet.
Oh, yeah.
That is here.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so I'll say then with like the skill that you've shown already, Kitra, you're able to like manipulate the necessary doors and cameras in a way that you don't get seen going to this to these quarters. And you're able to like make it up onto this like through the turbo lift onto this upper level. There's like this like the whole station's a circle. At the center there's like this big fountain, which is like such a luxury for a space station to have water that's not used for drinking or washing. And so there's like there's like 3 on each side, so big chambers, doors, and you know which one it is. And you can approach the 4 of you towards this pretty impressive looking like double sort of door, which is understandably shut. But yeah, it's like dead of night is what you had said, right? So it's like pretty late at this stage, like maybe 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah, Keitra would just approach the keypad that's on the door. She just kind of plugs her data pad in and kind of looks at the rest of the crew for like confirmation, like, okay, are we sure this is like the point of no return? I hit this and the door's open.
Well, I don't know that we necessarily want to break into his room. I think that's probably gonna put us on the wrong foot.
Yeah, I was more envisioning like she'd explained in her way a accessing his personal data pad while he's using it, or like some form of tap into some kind of media in his room while we're nearby.
Oh, I figured you wanted to meet him.
Oh, I do, but I feel like actually being present in his room. How do we get it? Do we have a way in?
You can knock.
Well, there's that.
Like we can ring the doorbell.
Yeah, it's also like probably within your capability to hack this door open, but you're right in thinking that then you're just breaking and entering. You know, just like
Yeah. I actually think now that I think about it, I actually think knocking is probably the best move, especially especially if he doesn't expect us in any kind of capacity. This like this pleasantry, you know, this formal behavior.
There's surprise visitors, and then there's breaking and entering.
Keitra just kind of looks at the 3 of you like, fine. Unhooks the data pad. All right. And she just kind of hits the ringer, if you will, just beep, beep. And like the little video screen comes up.
It does like that tedious ding dong ding dong. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh no!
And then it's like it opens up the little screen, like maybe like 30 seconds after you ring the bell, and there's a Trandoshan like looking into the camera feed. Trandoshans are like very large reptilian aliens. You go.
She would just be like, "Hey, big fella, a little to the left. Urbaro, Mr. Ohm. Hello."
This lizard, this Trandoshan, like squints, and like hisses, Who are you?
Shell will kind of like step in
And
next to the captain as well, to like be on screen or whatever it is. Okay. My name's Shell. We're just here to chat. A little birdie down at the bar told us that this might be a good place to catch some work.
Wait. And the thing cuts. And like 30 seconds, and then a minute, and then like 2 minutes go by as you like wait out in this hallway. It's like totally silent. Obviously, it's the middle of the night, and like it's sort of the nighttime lights are on, which are quite dim. Until eventually, the door opens, and there's two Trandoshans standing there. They're both in armor. They obviously like weren't sleeping and are prepared, and they both have like vibro axes at one hip and blaster pistols on the other. You want to
Yeah, the captain would just kind of stand firmly next to Shell, not really flinching an inch at Trandoshans, and she'll say, "Come on, a drink wouldn't hurt. We can do business. It would be good for
weapons.
both of us."
They interrupt.
Yeah, and it's funny because she's like she's not speaking to him at all, and he knows that, but like immediately she's conscious of what he's saying, and she puts her holdout pistol on the ground, and then like kind of reaches simultaneously into a little pocket on the bottom of her leg and pulls out her brass knuckles and also sets those on the ground.
Yeah, Shell won't hesitate at all. Like he'll just like stand open, like kind of arms out showing, and like open his coat to see like one of the blasters that's in there, hidden away. He's not gonna try to like hide or do any sort of fancy footwork here. He's just gonna like lay it all out on the table.
I assume the other two of you do the same.
Yeah, Mara just similarly spreads his hands, and he actually doesn't have any weapons on him, just his med pack, which contains various needles and that. But yeah.
Yeah, Keitra doesn't have anything other than her data pad. So
once you've put the weapons down, they still will go through a very thorough search and like search you. Nonetheless, it's a pretty common move to like put a visible weapon on the ground and keep an invisible weapon on you, and so they'll search you very thoroughly. And then eventually you're like led into this pretty opulent for like a shitty space station chamber, into like this big sort of main living space. And there's like a sort of semicircular sofa arrangement and like quite a big circular table. And like at the center of this semicircular sofa is sitting this dude. I have a picture. So he's like sitting there, and he's got like some sort of like caffo drink that's like steaming. He's clearly was asleep and now like looks up as you enter. There's nowhere for you to sit. That's apart from this like huge semicircular couch which he is taking up entirely on his own, and it's clear that like that's his place and you stand.
She also like whispers to the Trandoshan as she walks over. I'm just gonna say that he probably grabbed all of her things, including her flask, and she says, "Don't let me forget that, young man. That's Corellian." And she snaps her eyes back to Ohm and kind of stretches a little and steps back a single pace as she imagined Shell steps forward, usually the speaker for the party.
He like leans back in the seat and like takes a slurp of the what is effectively coffee, places it down onto the edge of this like glass table, and looks up. It is late.
Yeah, Keitra kind of just standing next to Doc goes, yeah, kind of rethinking the whole coming at night kind of thing now.
These kind of guys sleep during the day. Don't worry about it.
So sorry if we disturbed you. That was not the intention. But of course, such things are usually better discussed at hours like this. Less ears and less eyes. I'm sure you know.
You have something important to discuss.
Speaking of ears and eyes, and more importantly, mouths, a couple down at the bar, little birdies told me that perhaps if we were looking for work, something more than some of this carrier transportation garbage they're feeding people for scraps, that your name might be one of import. Perhaps that there's something that you might have on offer that's a little bit more our speed. And he says it'll kind of like motion down to the blasters that have been taken.
And what do you think your speed is? You come here in the middle of the night and wake me from my sleep? For what? To ask for work? What kind of work do you think you're capable of that I am not capable of?
It's not a matter of capability. Obviously, you have capability in bounds, but there's a certain power in outsourcing. Things go wrong. Things turn up strangely. You're never the one to take a hit. If you hire ghosts, ghosts die just the same, and their secrets with them. It's that easy. The less you have to do, the less you have to risk. The more that we take on risk, the more that's on our heads. But of course, the more that we gain from doing that. We're just looking to make a good deal. We can help you out. If we make a buck off of it, it'd be nice.
Well, like looks up and like clicks a finger, and like a Twi'lek woman will like bring out this like box, and he'll pull like a cigar from it and light it. And he'll take like an inordinate amount of time to like get it started and like take a few puffs before he speaks again. There is something, maybe, for people of your talents. I don't know you, and I don't trust you. But there is something minor that you can do for me, and if you succeed in this, then maybe there will be more.
That's really all that we're looking for at the end of the day. We're trying to make some connections here. And I wouldn't expect you to show your whole hand on the first round. You're obviously much smarter than that, much smarter than us. That's why you're here and we're here. Like motion to us, like standing and him sitting with the fine cigars and drinks. But if we can get our foot in the door, if we can get our names in your mind and show that we mean business and that we do business and we do it well, that's good for both of us. You make money, we make money. Working relationships are hard to come by these days, especially people who won't stab you in the back. I think we can all come out of this ahead.
All right. Sit. And he'll gesture to like one side of the huge circular sofa. It is
Joe will do so.
a simple thing that I ask of you. Very simple. You like money. I like money. We all like money. I have some friends, and they like certain activities, certain products that they cannot find on their own world, and I am nothing if not a people pleaser. I want to ensure that they can enjoy the things that they want to enjoy. So that requires you going to a place, picking up some things, bring them somewhere else. Is this something that you can do?
Shell will give like a quick eye to the team to make sure that there's no insane objections, but then probably too short of a time for anybody to actually say anything. He'll like look back to Uboro, just nod. Of course, we have a ship. We're quiet. We're quick. We're easy. It'll be nothing.
Good. It is spice. From Ryloth. You'll go there, you will meet with my associate, Kahorin, and he will give you the spice, then you simply take it to Safarine. No muss, no fuss, do this, get the money, bring it back to me.
Seems easy enough, as long as we get where and who and all that logistical stuff. And when he says that, he'll like look over to Kitra, and then especially to the boss, is like, if we need to ask for any details that you guys need, because I'm just the talking guy, so you guys are the logistics people. So if there's anything you guys need to do your jobs, please. And I'll kind of look over to them.
She would lean back a little bit and kind of stretch nonchalantly and let her hair down and say, Orobaro, you look close to my age. You know nothing in this outer rim comes easily, even the easy jobs. I appreciate you hearing us. And while I know that you have muscle of your own, I've met some others aboard the station.
No, you. The less
Just us.
people, the better. You already have discovered my face, and it's not something that I'm pleased with. And you came here through your own means, somehow, in the middle of the night, and got past various pieces of security to knock upon my door. That in itself is impressive. These others have not done so. And this is not a job that requires muscle. Ideally, you will not even meet any resistance.
He'll
And
give
that's
like a self-satisfied smirk and nod to himself as he says all this.
yeah, and she'll just ponder on that and say, ideally. So you're telling me, sorry. So she infers, okay, if that is the ideal, what is the not ideal? If our lack of muscle has to be engaged, what kind of threats are we dealing with? As my young face inquired about, we need to speak about logistics. We need to speak
I
about
had
the
to
challenges.
guess, and I don't mean to speak for you, of course, sir. Spice trade, I'm guessing that the most likely threats are going to be from Imperial searches, making sure that we keep out of the eyes of people who are doing checkpoints, security guards, a bunch of bullshit like that. I can't imagine that you have many enemies looking to take down your spice vessels. At least I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, so she'll
that
like
right?
she'll like interrupt you, interrupting her, and essentially say kind of the same thing, which is that yes, your enemies, nothing to worry about, Orobaro.
I am beloved by all. I'm a man of the people. Very popular, you see. If you end up in a situation where you require muscle, then you have failed me. And I have no use for you. And then you should be dead.
Agreed.
Fair enough.
Now, of course, I won't waste too much more of your time, but of course, business is business, and I assume that, of course, for this work, in addition to your trust, the most important commodity that we'll be working for here, that there is also going to be some other arrangements.
He smiles, and you can see like he has these like sharp, pointed teeth. Money, as I say, I like money. You like money. We all like money, and so after we pay Cohoran for his mine and my fee of 20%, and you would each walk away with 600 credits.
He'll give a quick look to the others. But to him, that sounds good. Like he'll kind of raise his eyebrows, like 600 credits each, and a foot in the door of this guy's business dealings. Like that's good.
And she'll just say 600 credits, generous. And if we succeed, safe harbor within your network would be also generous, but appreciated. Loyalty would follow.
It will depend, of course, upon the manner of your success and how well and smoothly things go. The deliveries for the Crimson Dawn be on your best behavior. They do not tolerate failure of any kind, nor do they tolerate this kind of lip.
She'll take that and she'll nod and say, "I'm sorry, old habits." And she'll lean back to her negotiator and also to her slicer and say, "Well, we should be settling up, but before that, a drink to success." She gestures to the Trandoshan, the one who has her flask, just to get it back, essentially.
He gives like this little tiny nod of the head, and he'll hand the flask to you. And he'll pick up his coffee again and just sort of like raise it. Not so, like, this is not a big deal to him, and that's clear. And he'll just like take a sip and put it back down at the table. If you have no other questions.
This Cohoran guy, is he tough to find?
No, I will give you coordinates. And he'll like bring his data pad over and tap a few things, and it'll like fly over to yours, Kitra. Looks like it's a spice mine on right.
Great. Squared.
Good then. Hopefully next time we see
That
you,
case-
we should both be richer.
We've wasted enough of your
Hopefully.
time.
We're doing business with you. It'll be all the better once we're making money. And he'll go to turn to leave. Well, and he'll stop by the Trandoshans with all their couple weapons and gear and such.
Yeah, one of them like lets out this like low rumbling hiss as he hands back the weapons. Like they have not maintained any sort of sense of friendliness throughout this whole thing, even if he has. And they'll like escort you like right to the edge of the door and stay there until it closes.
Once the door closes, Shell will like, yes! And like turn to the others. And then like look and realize that it's still like in the middle of the night and that he should clap and yell in this hallway. And just kind of like, and then like turn to keep going.
She kind of turns on a heel and looks in either direction of the hallway, and just, I suppose we go the way we came. It'd be awkward going out the front door. And yeah, she ushers them to lead the way as she takes the back.
Okay, so you can make your way back down through the turbo lifts and towards your ship.
On the way, Maro says to Keitra as they're walking, 600 credits. What will you do with that?
Well, there's a lot I could do with that, I suppose, but I think the first thing we'll have to do is invest it back into our home. She's referencing the ship.
Yeah, takes 20%. How much will the cap take until the ship's nice and shiny again?
Well, don't look at it so much as 600 credits. If anything, an investment in the Crimson Dawn could be our foothold into finding out who has leverage over you. I'm still working on
that. As you mentioned that, he sort of hunches himself a little bit and looks over to the captain and to Shell. They don't know yet. But yes, hopefully this will get us one step closer.
And a few paces ahead of them, the captain's arms would be like jovially around Shell and she'll just say, you know what? On our last mission, I talked a lot. On this mission, I talked a bit more. You're really good at talking. I'm gonna let you do it next time. And she lights a death stick, and she keeps walking forward, tucking her brass knucks back into her pocket and her flask into her jacket, and she'll be in good spirits.
Shell will kind of laugh at that and just say, "Hey, we all have our gifts. I was born with a good mouth, and you can slap me in the face when I am too much of an asshole.
Hey,
We all have our part to play."
I'm an okay driver. She laughs as it probably fades back to the ship.
Yep, we get one of those Star Wars wipes, and you're on the ship getting ready to go, and you can like take off from the station and head out into the black. So to Ryloth is about half a day from here. You don't even need to look at astrogation. You're along the Corellian hyperlane, and so you just basically get on the road and keep going, and you'll get to Ryloth.
Yeah, I would say I pretty much just plug in the coordinates or send the coordinates over to Chip, and he pretty much just Google Maps it. And
Yep.
It's pretty much just a...
So while we're on the way, I don't know if this would be any specific skill or if we would just know. So onto Ryloth and then off of Ryloth into Savareen. Would we know of any obvious Imperial checkpoints or like typical hotspots that they like to check things off at, or any place where we'll need to have a plan as far as explaining away?
So you're basically going to go down this Corellian hyperway to Ryloth, and you could take it back up towards Savareen, but you would expect that most planets, when you get off this hyperlane, that are in Imperial space or like important in any sort of way, will have an Imperial checkpoint. Particularly, like notably when you get off that hyperlane. So like as you like exit space in that sort of area, you could do like a more complicated route to get there from a different direction. Take a lot longer, but it might be less well patrolled. But it's very hard to say. I guess you could like try and find out some stuff about Savareen to see if like it's likely that they would have a patrol there or like a presence.
Well, we are using our smuggling compartments, I would imagine. So that should help if we get boarded and inspected. Though we don't, do we want to avoid that? I'm just saying.
Yeah, so Shell would look to the others then and say, so hopefully it won't be a big deal, but depending on who we get, some of those Imperial officers are more able than others. Some of them like to talk, and you can give them some nice gifts and send them on their way. Others are a little bit more uptight. So in the event that somebody is feeling a little adventurous, we should have a plan. So we're going to Ryloth not to pick up spices, but for what? And it's just going to kind of like try to brainstorm like what our cover story is, what our plans are, if we're going to try to take any alternate routes, anything like that.
Before before we leave, could we pick up some very basic goods to transport to Ryloth?
Does Ryloth have any
like
known imports or exports that it's for that we could use as a cover?
Yeah, so it's notorious for exporting spice, even though it's an imperially controlled world. It's the home world of the Twi'leks. This is all the common knowledge. There's a lot of slave labor on Ryloth. Like the Twi'leks have been like very heavily enslaved. So they export because it's like an Earth-like world. There's lots of biomes and stuff. They export all kinds of shit. So lots of food and stuff, and certainly like things like clothing, like fabrics, things like that. But spice is like where the money is, even though it's illegal. You know.
Yeah, I would imagine though that since this is an underworld operation, that they would have the spice like in some sort of mundane-looking containers, and probably something unsuspicious on top, like some sort of vegetables or something. So it wouldn't be spice, and on the manifest, it wouldn't say that we're picking up spice, we're picking up blah blah blah. So even though it is what it is, right? So.
Yeah, and you can generally fly onto like a planet the size of Ryloth without being searched. Like they don't have time to like stop every person and like, or even 1/100th of the people that arrive on a planet. You might feel a bit more paranoid if you had spice in your cargo and were leaving with it, but you think like getting onto the planet will not be an issue.
Yeah, getting on is not what Shell is worried about. It's definitely the between Ryloth to Savarine that's on his mind.
Well,
yeah, the captain would suggest to Keitra work up some documents as we do. We'll need papers for our manifest as well.
Yeah. Can you cut one up for us like you saw them do on the going through their stuff?
Yeah, I think I could do that. All right. Oh, doke.
She would ask Chip, any issues? Any new issues? She smiles as the walls spark at her, essentially.
He would like do that very human gesture of like shaking his like circular head. Like just the same old litany of issues, of which there are a great many. Like these things need maintenance. This thing is broken. This thing is still sparking. Like the water is only comes out either boiling hot or freezing cold. Like there's no middle ground. Like all these sort of like issues that are like not life threatening but still inconvenient.
Any difficulties or challenges to just kind of generate some IDs, basically?
As in, so to get a new transponder code is actually super difficult and very expensive. That would like to hide the identity of your ship and what's on it.
Not a new transponder code. More so just like transit papers.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. That would also be tricky, but yeah, it's possible. You're basically forging digital papers, right? Is what the idea is.
Yeah, basically forging passports. If you will.
Yeah, like how their work were going through their stuff, hide nature of it. We'd want to try to just do the same thing. Where if they say like, "What are you exporting?" We have a list of all the
Oh yeah, okay, sure.
nonsense that we have.
That's not so difficult. You can do that without too much issue. Actually, wouldn't even need to check to like make a list that seems like appropriate of like a manifest that you picked up in some other station somewhere. Particularly since you like had the admin rights to the Kebar Station, you can like easily forge like an appropriate document or like digi document that you can show to the necessary people.
Yeah, I would say like we pull some official names from Kebar Station so that we actually have some like so if they went on a duck hunt for it, they would essentially, it would take them a while because some of it is legitimate.
Okay. Yep. So then, in that case, let's just do a computer's roll from you, Kitra, and it'll be difficulty 3 purples.
Do I get to add the advantage for the computer on the ship?
Yep. You're on the ship.
Yep. Okay. Roll it. Success with 2 advantages.
Okay. Nice. Yep. So you're able to remember the name of one of these people on the station, like one of the like dock workers you met when you first entered, and you like put their name at the top, and like here's a manifest that says, you know, or like is stamped and double stamped by this person, and that you're bringing whatever nutri paste, you know, with you to Ryloth, something like that.
Yep, we're all set to go, Captain.
So you can punch it and make your way then relatively quickly to Ryloth with no issues. You can take that hyperspace lane, like I was saying, the Corellian hyperspace lane, all the way to Ryloth, and then with like that satisfying like appear back in real space. You get that sort of feeling you always get, like a sort of tumble in your stomach as you like rematerialize in real space. And you can like fly down into Ryloth. Ryloth is a pretty big planet. It's sort of mottled green and brown. As you like approach down and fly in towards, you head towards this like red sort of desert area, and like fly over sort of like a monument valley, like all these like huge stone formations sticking out all over the place, until finally like you arrive, like kick up a huge cloud of dust, and you can see that there's like a couple of looks like prefab buildings, and then like various like roots carved into the ground around. And as you like get off your ship, you can see that there are many Twi'leks here, like laboring, backbreaking labor in the baking hot sun, mining this spice on the surface. And there's obviously a facility that goes down into darkness where there are a great many more. And as you like approach, there's a Pawan who will come out and crazy this guy.
I would say you could definitely see on Kitra's face, she has her face looks like that between sorrow and disgust, just seeing the Twi'leks that are slaves. She definitely does not like seeing this aspect. Not to mention this is under Empire control.
Yeah, it's grim. And there's like not only that, but there's like a basilisk, which is like a big 4-armed alien. And you can see he's just like whipping, just like ridiculously and repeatedly, one of these Twi'leks who's like not doing the job quick enough, I guess. And it's like clear that this Twi'lek is like either dead or very close to it. But he's like taking no sort of stops. And this Pawan like walks right past it and like doesn't even give it a second glance, and like approaches with his arms wide and approaches like the ramp of your ship and like inclines his head with a smile.
Just kind of being empathic as she is, Shara would lean into Kitra and say, this planet is far gone. It's disgusting, but we're here for a job. No heroism.
She just like balls her fist, and she's just like looking down, like she can't look you in the eye or look at what's happening here. And she's just like, let's just get the cargo and get the hell off this planet.
She she nods, and she's ironically, she feels the exact same way as you do, but she knows. And she'll let you go ahead first and watch your language.
Yeah, Shell will like step forward and like whatever greeting is most culturally Rylothian appropriate, like shake hands or whatever thing that he would know to do, he'll do. And I guess he probably would have told us. Is this guy like in the know enough that we can say who we came from without causing problems?
Yes,
Or
definitely.
at least once we find actually Kohorin?
Yeah, this is him. You would know, like, would have told you that he's a Powan, and there aren't a lot of those that live out in the. They're quite insular as a people, but they're extremely effective at managing. Seemingly, is one of their things, and it's clear that this guy like runs a tight ship. Although, like, as you approach, he like does a bow, and then he turns over his shoulder and he goes, "He's fucking dead." And the Basilisk guy stops whipping, and he turns back and like sort of sickly sweet smile. Welcome, welcome, come. The heat unbearable, fucking unbearable. Come with me. And he like turns and walks towards one of these prefab sort of buildings.
Yeah, Shell will return the bow and laugh at the joviality of this person, like not wanting to even acknowledge any of the slavery stuff that his companions are whining about behind him. It's a bad look to do that in front of the boss. Let's say yes, we've plenty to discuss. I'm sure you're aware of why we're here.
Yes, of course, yes. But it's too fucking hot out here. I cannot tolerate it. And he's like, takes out this like fine handkerchief and like dabs his forehead with it. And you can see like the Twi'leks who are like in the blistering sun and heat, like working under sunburnt and cracked skin, like pulling this stuff out of the earth. And one of them like passes out, and the Basilisk guy runs over and like grabs them and like lifts them up and slaps as you like walk by towards one of these prefab buildings. You're brought inside, and it's like cool and air conditioned and nice. And he like goes behind his desk and sits and like leans back far and like fans himself. And there's like seats in here. It's an office, although only in like the barest possible sense, like a construction site office. So you have been sent by here to assist in the delivery of the things that our friends want but cannot have.
Yep, that's the short of it. He's, of course, got plenty of his things to attend to, so we're here to do the attending for him. Simple transfer. We're out of your hair. And then he'll like laugh and realize that that's like not applicable to this species. And then he's like mixed his phrases up and just kind of like shake his head.
Yeah,
Easy.
smile,
And then
but like this species, like the smile looks like a snarl. It's kind of off-putting. Well, good. I have been told I'm to give you Rill and 7 flesh to bring with you.
I'm assuming that matches what had told us.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't told you were bringing flesh, which is people, but you were told you were bringing Rill, which is the spice. And he's like smiling, and he's like taking something down on like a notepad. He like looks back up at the sort of pause. Something is unclear.
It just seems like there was a small bit of miscommunication from our buddy He didn't tell us that that there'd be people involved that we'd be needing to take as well.
They're property, not people. He like corrects quickly.
Of course, it's
Yes.
just more cargo than we had anticipated.
I see. You have space? You couldn't cram them in.
Of course.
You see,
Keitra just kind of stand and again, she's just like trying to like, she's just gritting her fist and everything. And she looks at the captain and goes, I need to use the facilities. May I be excused?
Yeah, of course. This building over there. He like points across to like a slightly more permanent looking building.
the captain will smile, kind of just barely noticeably, fakely, and let's say a long trip. You must understand. And she'll say about this cargo. Our ship, it flies, it's fueled, but it's not in any kind of state for extra. Now, if you are comfortable with risking the property of in the transit of, she looks around, flesh, be my guest, but our ship is retrofitted to carry other goods. Do we understand?
Goods are goods. I don't understand them. No, it's the same thing. I was told you're taking these things, and these things you have to take. The Crimson Dawn do not like it when you fuck with them. And they won't like it when I fuck with them. And I don't fuck with anybody. I do as I say. This is it. And then there's like a
But what if,
and he answers the phone, and he goes, and like hangs it up, looks back up at you.
If that's what the Crimson Dawn are expecting, then that's what we'll deliver. And he'll like just look to the captain, unashamed of going over the top on this one. If that's the deal, we're here to do the deal. The specifics of it are not in our power to determine or deny.
yes, we are grateful for Om's patronage. I misspoke.
Then
I
there is
was
no
just
problem.
worried. No problem at all.
Good.
And what's his title?
This guy? Well,
Yeah.
I guess he'd be overseer, probably, something like that.
Cool. Overseer Rosk, the job is done. Consider it so.
That's what I expected. This is how these things are. You must be new. You've had a long journey. Would you like anything? Refreshments? Pleasure slaves?
She doesn't know what Shell will say. However, she says our ship may require some modification to safely and discreetly transport these new additions. Can you provide any kind of retrofitting? Do you have any kind of mechanical resources at your station here on Ryloth?
We can cram them into boxes for you if you like. We have. Means like trying to think of the word. Cargo boxes for people. Property.
I think if you'll excuse the interruption, I think what my associate here is inquiring about is we didn't have food prepared for these slaves to ensure they arrive in good condition for their captors, their owners, excuse me. Then we should make sure that they survive the journey. They won't do any work for anybody if they die.
Ah, yes. He touches his nose and he like points at you. This one is clever. Yes, you can provide paste for them to eat.
Paste will do.
Not so far from here to Neverine or Savarine.
Perhaps not. It should be simple enough. In that case, your offers of hospitality are most gracious, and we thank you for them. But I fear if we stay here and indulge too long, that business is delayed. And the delay of business is not good for either of us, nor for our boss. I'm sure you understand. But perhaps a quick drink. I'm sure with this heat, I don't need to tell you.
No, you do not. I fucking hate it here. And he like presses this like intercom button and like screams something down the and then like turns back to you and is like and like smiles very politely. And then a couple of seconds later, there's like a Twi'lek girl comes in with like this platter of refreshments and like holds them sort of up and like looks down at the ground. There's like various sort of different colored drinks that are like arrayed, and you can see that like her arms are shaking from like the weight.
Yeah, Shell will just take one of the drinks off and kind of like tip it up towards Rosk and just say, "To a cold room and good business." Before I'll just take a sip.
She'll
You go.
the captain will actually like stand up to greet the server when receiving the drink, and in doing so will hold a steady hand under hers because it's obviously shaking under the platter, and the drinks will stop rattling.
No. You mustn't. He like stands and moves over. You mustn't help them. They have to learn.
And despite him saying this, and despite him kind of getting up, she will not have breaking eye contact with the Twi'lek, and she'll take the drink and she'll sit down and sip it.
Yeah, so the
Thank you.
Doesn't look in your direction. She like looks at the ground, as she's obviously been told to do many times.
Yeah. The captain will just be taking this moment in, and she'll sit down and have a drink.
Yeah, he'll walk over and he'll take a drink as well. And like there'll be a little bit of a wobble as he takes the drink, like from the opposite side where you had taken yours. And like one of the drinks, like ever so slightly, like splashes a little bit onto the ground. He just backhands her and like screams something at her again. And she runs quickly out of the room. And he'll say, "To cold rooms," and have a sip. You go.
Well, then, have the cargo prepared and loaded. We'll be off this place as we can. I'm sure you don't blame us.
Yeah, and right on the feet of Shell, she'll say, "A pleasure, Overseer," before he kind of has a chance to respond himself, and she'll actually leave quickly.
Yeah, he'll rise and like bring you to the door. Meanwhile, across in the other room, the other building, Maro and Kutra, you've like walked across, basically like across this like wooden bridge that like underneath there are these ridges where the slaves are working, like hacking into the what seems like rock and dirt with picks. And you like move across this other room, and it's obviously like some sort of like reception area, and like a barracks or quarters. There's a couple of like who are clearly like overseers or guards sitting around playing cards, and they like look up in your direction as you come in. And obviously they've been briefed that like people are coming to pick up some cargo, and just like nod, and you can find your way to the facilities.
Yeah, I'd like to, on our way to the facilities, find just like one of those computer terminals that's like, you know, like kind of looks like an ATM or whatever, and one of the sidewalls there. I don't know if you want me to make a stealth or.
Yeah, so like if you're going to try and use a terminal in view of these dudes, that would be suspicious.
Yeah, I'd be like, since Mara's with me, I'd be like, just stand there.
Yep. Okay, so let's call that stealth or skullduggery.
I think it's stealth.
Yeah.
Or what? Yeah.
Can we have a forward conversation about where and when skullduggery applies? Because I've actually never seen it used in a Star Wars game.
Okay, so to me, stealth is literally hiding, and like sneaking.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say skullduggery is like anything that would in D&D be sleight of hand, and like things like picking locks, things like stealth is specifically for hiding and not being seen, while skullduggery is like the greater sort of shitty, underhanded sort of actions, you know. And then deception,
Yeah,
like
it's kind of a weird catch-all that falls like in between because of the computers. Anyway,
Yeah.
I was just wondering how to apply it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, stealth is basically just that, like hiding. As far as I can tell. Okay.
So then I'll have Maro. Can you make a skullduggery or like a distraction, sort of, as opposed to?
Yeah,
That probably makes more sense.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So I could do whichever you like. I could do skullduggery if you like.
Yeah. How are you kind of trying to distract these dudes?
So I think at first he would just position himself between Kitra and the guards, but then sort of seeing that they're looking in this direction and he needs to do something more. I think he'd maybe there's a slave that sort of comes through and sort of stumbles, and he like makes a big distraction of like going to help them, pulling out all of his medical scanners and things like that, you know.
Mhm.
And I'm sure they'd come over to try and tell him to stop, you know, no, let her, she has to learn. So he'd do that.
Okay, cool. So we'll call that skullduggery then, and it'll just be difficult too.
So sorry, this is my first roll, so I don't have any points in that skill, so it'll just be 2 yellow for cunning, right?
It'd be green if you don't have any. So green is the base ability, and then yellow is when you're trained in it.
Cool. So 2 green, and then it was, so did you say 2 purple for difficulty?
Yep.
All right, let's see how we go.
Okay, no
One
good.
failure.
So there'll still be a little bit of time, particularly with how quickly you can hack, that you can attempt it, but there is a good chance that they might see you if you're doing it, Kitra. So basically what happens is you go over to this slave and you're trying to help her. She like trips on the way in. And as you go over, one of them just like points and is like, up, don't help them. And he gets up and like walks over towards you, and then just like briefly like glances in the direction of you by the terminal. Then goes over to deal with this situation. But it's clear that like he knows you're at the terminal basically. But if you still wanted to try and hack something really quickly, you could definitely try.
Yeah, she would just like on her cargo pants there. She just kind of like a Velcro flap. She just, and there's like all these decoder keys. And she just like fumbles through several of them, and then she just slides one out and then just sticks it in one of the ports there and lets it do, you know, like log in for her and stuff like that to kind of give her admin rights.
Yeah. Okay. So what are you trying to do?
I don't like what's going on here, and I don't think I can sit there and like free the slaves. I just want to make this overseer have like a bad day. I just want to like cause something that's just gonna like just give him a bad day before we leave or as we leave. You know.
So you could potentially like overheat his air conditioning or something like that.
Yeah, just like make him uncomfortable as hell.
Yeah.
Like make him feel the pain a little bit.
Okay, sure. So you can give me computers with difficulty 3.
Okay.
I'm going to give you 2 setbacks because of the fear of these guys looking at you.
All right, I'll reduce that by 1.
Okay.
Let me just make sure. Talents. Yeah, 1 for decoding and 1 for security bypass. Okay. And roll it. Advantage.
So just an advantage. So I guess it makes sense that you're like, you don't have time to like fully implement the thing, but maybe you just like crank it way up to the point where it's going to be like overworking, and like if no one does anything about it in the next while, it will happen sort of anyway. But you didn't have quite enough time to like actually get it to like turn off or like malfunction, but you've just like cranked it in the direction where it's not sustainable basically.
Yeah, I imagine the guard walks over and she just like, you know, sleight of hand like pulls the key out and everything.
Yeah.
And she's like, these old terminals, they just never work.
Hey, fucking slaves are always messing with them, the guard says. And like looks at this slave and then back to the doctor and then back to you. And then kind of like cops like, who are you? What are you doing here? You're from the ship?
Yes. Looks over to the doctor. We were
Facilities.
we got turned around, and I was hoping to use the map to figure out where the bathroom was.
Pisser is there.
And she just kind of like waves, like, "Okay, thanks." And
yeah, he just like stands with his arms folded and like watches you go into that bathroom, and then we'll be there when you leave to make sure like that's what you're doing. He's suspicious. In the meantime, outside there will be 7 Twi'lek slaves who are like manacled at the ankles and at the wrists, and they're made to carry the spice aboard. It's like 3 crates of rill. So it's not like a huge shipment, but it's still something. It's like worth quite a lot of money, but it's not like some gigantic shipment. So that's all happening. Kohoran is like outside. He's like has this parasol that he kind of hangs onto when he's standing outside in the sun, and like watches it all kind of happen. And this basilisk with the 4 arms has like 2 of his arms folded, and the other is like holding a whip in one hand, and he's like scratching his arse with the other, and he's like watching the slaves do their work, making sure everyone does what they're told and nobody sort of acts inappropriately.
Yeah, and Shell will make sure, because this guy at this stage, like Shell knows that everybody here knows what's going on, so he'll make sure that they just load the spice straight into the smugglers' compartments, so that there's no reason to hide it from them. They know what they're doing is already illegal, so he doesn't see any need to play coy about it. He'll just oversee to make sure that the containers are put in the right spots.
And the captain will direct Shell further, and make sure make sure the containers have paste in them. We don't want any problems.
So, out of character question, real quick, just so I know, because obviously Shell would know, but I don't actually offhand in Star Wars know. Would the transport of these Twi'lek slaves on their own be conspicuous to the Empire? Like, is that illegal as well?
So slavery is not illegal in the Empire, and like notably Twi'leks are trafficked a lot because they're gorgeous and they're used for like pleasure slaves all over the galaxy. And so if you had like an Imperial sort of "I'm transmitting slaves" document, then if they came on, they'd be like, well, this all seems to be above board, particularly because like you've got a few humans on your crew, and humans are like way up there in terms of Imperial hierarchy. So it's not super illegal. It's actually legal to transport slaves of certain species if you have the correct sort of paperwork.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that we don't have to like stuff them down in the compartments too and worry about like them like dying of overheating or whatever. Like we can have them in the ship and it's not going to turn heads.
Yeah, like these are slaves on the planet. They're like legally slaves, It's like the Empire does that.
Yeah, she would kind of be commenting about the containers for the overseer and for the basilisk, so that they assume that things are going as Rosk suggested. And
so they would tell you that they basically like force fed all of the slaves NutriPaste before they're going to put them onto your ship. It's only like a 1.5-day journey to Severine, and so they won't need to eat before then.
good, that there shouldn't be any problems. Shall see to it that they all are contained. She'll nod at the overseer and say, "A pleasure. And further business, perhaps." She nods as she walks up the ramp.
I hope so. He sort of like does this sort of dramatic bow, and they'll like head back inside. And as you're like taking off and looking down, you can see the Bessic again, just like whipping the ever loving shit out of some of these slaves. As the guy like heads back to his air conditioned pod and like comes back out and like sort of pulls at his collar. You can like fly away back into space. Now the decision is: do you want to take the hyperspace route all the way to Severine, or do you want to make several jumps and like calculate a route that's less likely to run you into Imperials?
We'll need time to modify our papers first, right?
I was going to say, Shell would want to get with Kitra to see if we could get the slaves put on the official manifest, since I think at that point, between the slaves and our other associated random goods that are on the manifest, that shouldn't turn any heads. And I think we'd be able to take the main road at that point, but I'm open to a discussion on that.
I think in typical fashion, while nursing a whiskey this time in her quarters, she'd be listening in over comm, because she would really want to hear the conversation between Shell and Kitra about this particularly.
Forging Imperial documents is significantly more difficult than forging like any space station documents. Like Imperial documents are super encrypted and like much harder to forge, and so it'll be a trickier check to change your manifest to say that you're illegally trading slaves. It's possible, but it'll require a tricky computers check.
Yeah, she looks at Shell. She's like, "Of course I could do it, but we're not going to do it, right? I mean, look at them.
What?
And she just kind of like grabs his face and like turns it. Look at them.
And
I see them. What do you mean? If the Empire searches us and they're not on the list, we're gonna get in trouble. So put them on the list. What's the problem?
I mean, we're not really going to transport slaves, are we? We didn't sign up for this.
We signed up for a deal.
I was just gonna say,
We're working with criminal underworld. What do you? We're not saints. We came here to make a deal. We're making the deal. This is what the deal is. If we mess this up, the Crimson Dawn's going to be against us. Ryloth's going to be against us. Aurora's going to be against us. Everybody. This is exactly what we signed up for.
She's swirling the carved ice in her glass, and she's whispering to herself, "No heroics. No heroics." And she'll just hit the intercom. Brrr! Meet in the mess. Captain's orders. And she'll have made a decision about this.
Where are you keeping the Twi'leks? Are you keeping them in the cargo hold, or like you also have like quarters and stuff that you could put? You don't have enough quarters for this many, but like there would be like a living / kitchen area where you could keep them. That would be much more comfortable than the cargo hold. But that's really your decision. It also says a lot about what you think they are.
They would be in the cargo hold for now while we're discussing this, and they would have been advised by me that they'd be made more comfortable soon and to hang tight, as the ship is big enough but also not big enough because Star Wars.
It's big enough, but the issue with it is that you have so many more people using life support systems that it's going to be expensive the longer you stay, the more fuel it's going to cost, because there's so many people breathing on a ship that's not designed for this many people.
I will, as I walk out of my quarters, I will pass Chip, and I will say, "Put us into orbit. Get us ready for jump."
Yeah.
Hold on the just essentially being like, get the engines humming, but where we're going is still up in the air. So we're moving. We're not planet side.
Yep, you're up in orbit, basically awaiting to do some sort of jump.
Yeah. So she would have not let the slaves out yet, essentially, so that they could have a conversation about this. And the captain's meet in the mess would take place, and she'd still be whispering under her breath before the others joined. No heroics. And then would meet the rest of the crew.
Yeah, hearing the order from the captain to meet in the mess, Keitra just like glares her eyes at Shell. Remind me again why I don't release your secret. And she just kind of like storms off, like just ticked and pissed.
Shell will just like start muttering to himself, like, "Cause I'm gonna make you a fortune. Cause we have a great deal going." Just like he's not saying this to Kitra, just like to himself for his own benefit. But he'll turn and follow after and go to meet with the crew meeting.
Yeah, like almost immediately upon seeing the captain, I mean, Keitra just in her 19-year-old attitude, just making big gestures with her hands, be like, "Captain, you can't be serious about this."
Keitra, stow that energy. We might need it on this trip yet. And he'd wait for everyone to join, including the doctor. And then eventually, after bringing the ship to life, I imagine Chip might roll in in the peripherals. And Shara would look at everyone, and she would look pretty crossed, sweat on her forehead as she's kind of arms on her hips, pacing slightly. She paces around the mess hall to each of you individually, and then eventually stops on Shell and looks him in the eyes and says, "You're not gonna like this. Crew, now we got into this together to make our way out of the sludge that is this galaxy, to make a name for ourselves, to get out of the mess of this war and the mess of our backwater planets. What's going on down there?" And she points to where the cargo hold is. Sure, it's good for business, but this is my ship, and this is not what we do. We do not deal in slaves. So she turns to, or she leans further into Shell. Now, you created this opportunity for us. I'm prepared to give you my cut if, she pauses as she thinks for a moment on it, you find a way for us to lose these slaves. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand, but you're a fucking idiot. If we lose these slaves, 600 credits is not going to buy the bounty that they're going to put on our head. Crimson Dawn, you do not mess with the Crimson Dawn. If we do, we're done. Not done in the business, but like in a like motion, like a knife over his throat motion.
And she'll smile at his fear, and she'll nod as she does when he's on to something. And yeah, I know this about the Crimson Dawn as well. But she'll say, "Your command is to find a way to lose them. We don't have to be responsible. She points at your forehead, especially if you go to talk, and then pushes a little bit further, probably like inching in so that there's like a little bit of an imprint on your skin, and says, "That is why you're a part of this crew. That is how we survive this. We do not take slaves."
And what's the inventory in the cargo hold, Captain? We've taken them.
What
We're
were we to
committed.
do? Doctor, if it wasn't our crew, it would be the Nyctos. This industry moves without us. We have
You're
a
right.
choice.
You're
We
right.
were committed to one thing. We were committed to spice. We have that card to play. We have that escape if something goes wrong. It's up to us, and he looks at the able minds, to make something go wrong and make it not look like it was us. It's a risk, yes, but
I
this is not a ship that commits people to a lifetime of imprisonment or death. There's enough of that in this galaxy already. These are dark times.
Shell,
think.
you would,
There you go.
you would kind of know that this is like a pretty common move by people who are testing people that they want to work for them. Like, this is like, how do you deal with curveballs, and would you do what, so it's like a pretty common like technique where they're like, why don't you do this harmless thing for us, and then they like ramp it up without telling you to see how you act. So you think it's like not
Yeah.
anything shitty, it's just like an industry practice kind of.
I think you, and I mean this with no offense, so apologies if it comes across as condescending, but you are radically overestimating how much they care about accident or not accident. If we do not do this job perfectly, we're done. On purpose, accident, missing, on purpose, nobody gives a shit. If we mess up, we're done. That's it. I know how these things work. This is a test. They want to see if we're up to the task. If we can do what needs to be done, even if it's above and beyond what was asked to be done, that's how they see who means business and who is worthless. And if we do not do this right, we are worthless. And the Crimson Dawn does not ignore worthless people. They kill them. They get rid of them. Because we already know more than we should about this person and who he works for. And that's enough. Look, if you don't want to do slaves, that's fine. But this time needs to be the exception because we're already in this. You can put the rules going forwards, no slaves. Next time we'll say no. But this time we're already in this shit. And we will die if we do not do this well. At best, we'll die. At worst, it will be a lot less fun.
And Keitra looks, I mean, this whole time she just seems to be fuming as Shell's. I mean, he makes sense, but at the same time, this is not something she wants to do. But he says die over and over again. And she looks over at the doc, and her eyes just kind of go wide for a moment. Doc, what if we delivered them? But, Doc, couldn't you maybe they died in transport? Can you make them,
If they die in transport, that's on us. You guys are not getting this. No matter what happens, it's on us.
He's right. We signed up for this whether we knew it or not. This is a test, and the test is what we signed up for, Captain.
I think all of this resistance will kind of like swirl around her, and she'll have to take a seat for a moment as she loses her footing. And she sits in the at the table of the mess hall. holding her forehead as she starts to light a death stick. And she looks at Shell and she says, all right, we put it to crew vote. But I assure you, when you are at the top of this world you are trying to conquer, this shady part of the galaxy, if you are so afraid, they will always catch you. This ship needs to be fearless. This crew needs to be fearless to survive. And that is why I am willing to put this to vote.
Vote it is then. We have many paths in front of us, but only one of them, he'll say as he looks around to everyone in turn, leads to the four of us surviving. You all know this.
Yeah, she'll be a little bit like she's as crossed as the slicer is, but she's seated now. She's defeated by the reality that they've gotten themselves into under the Crimson Dawn. However, she believes in the vote, and the rule of thumb is that it has to be unanimous for when a vote is called. And
I've said my piece.
She says, "We take slaves." Is that who we are now?
Doesn't have to be who we always are, but we already are that person now, whether you like it or not. They're in our ship.
Then, Doctor, make them comfortable. Do we all agree? And she looks at Kitra as she waits for the vote to take place.
I mean, so yeah, Keitra feels defeated, so she just kind of looks at you and she goes, "Are you saying that it's an order now?"
I'm saying they're right. We don't have a choice.
Fine, I'll doctor your documents.
Finally, we're talking some sense around here. Thank you.
Doctor?
Let's get this done. We'll all be better for it.
I'll make them comfortable and we'll deliver them as agreed. Got our foot in the door, we can't have it blasted off on the inside now.
Release them from the cargo. They at least deserve to live like us, at least for a day. And with that, she will offer them standard rations and drink, but like not enough to get drunk, just enough to be comfortable.
Keitra,
As
remember
everyone
what
starts,
we're fighting for. Remember what you're fighting for. Okay?
she
We'll get through
nods
this.
together, as we have, and she'll keep a long gaze on Keitra, and as everyone starts to file out, how do you say the last name?
For Keitra?
Yeah.
Jadenar?
Okay. She'll just say, Keitra Jadenar. Hopefully out of earshot of anyone else. What did I tell you about heroics? I'm not very good at living up to the standard I hold. And that's not going to change today. We aren't them. We aren't the Crimson Dawn. You got us into this job, so you're responsible for helping me get these slaves out. But we do this together. We can't tell everyone or else it won't work.
She would just nod. Her eyes are just kind of watery. She's trying to hold back tears and anger.
We will see them free, but we have to do it our way. If Shell understands that we agree, this will go a lot more smoothly. Understand?
Aye, Captain.
Aye. Dismissed. And she'll puff a cloud of blue smoke, and she will return to not her quarters, but the cockpit. And she won't sleep.
The slaves will plead with you, Doctor. They'll like make all sorts of promises that like their family have money and all these things as you like see to them and make sure that they're sort of like comfortable at least while they're here. They're like all very badly malnourished, and many of them have like untreated illnesses or like broken bones or like that weren't set properly and things like that. And so, yeah, many of them will like directly just beg you, please let us go. Please, you don't have to do this.
He's been as cold as he was in the mess, out of necessity for himself. It's a coping mechanism to remain as distant as he can, and is more or less just trying to not engage with them, and just going through the motions of checking them over and running his handheld Mediscanner over them and yeah, fixing little cuts and things like that. Maybe giving them, putting some of them on a drip or something like that to try and hydrate and nourish them a bit better. But yeah, trying his best not to get attached and just not even responding to them, even though they're right in his face, literally begging.
One of them sees the scanner and she like looks at you and says, "You're a healer. How can you do this? How can you consent to this? Condemn us to this?"
We're all condemned in one way or another.
She like shakes her head sort of sadly. Coward.
No change in his demeanor or the way he's handling her in response. No more gruff or anything like that. Just lets that accusation roll over him as he thinks about his home world from however many months or years ago that he was last there.
You can continue the journey towards, or start the journey, actually. This is a good question now. Are you going to forge these documents? We're also, I realized like this game has gone very long, like way longer than I was anticipating. So I thought we'd be done by now. We're not. We still have like to figure out how to get there and then to get there. So I could probably do another hour if you guys are into that, or we can like call it soon. Because we play every 2 weeks, so it's not like a huge deal to.
Up to you
Honestly,
guys.
I'm fine with just like let's set the plan, and then I'd be fine if we want to keep going. I have nothing that's stopping me, but at the very least, we can set a plan and then cut and start next time with the journey.
Yeah,
Might
cool.
be a good middle ground.
Let's do that.
and I'm willing to do a little bit less meandering conversation.
That's okay. So I would just say then, like, let's decide what the plan is going to be, whatever that is. Do you? Well, I guess it's complicated because we have now two like strands of what we think is happening. One of which is forge the manifest, go straight there, deliver the slaves. The other is somehow lose these slaves along the way, pretend like it's an accident. So I don't know how you guys want to do that. But the important thing is how, like, what are you astrogating to? Where are you astrogating? Like, are you going to take the quick route along the hyperspace route, or are you going to do the 3 jumps to get there by a more sort of circuitous route?
My vote would be to add the slaves to the manifest and go straight there, but I'm not hardline committed. If other people want to oppose that,
Honestly, the captain would probably put into play all of Shell Tosca's machinations, as not only they are sharper than hers with regards to these kind of things, but also it is the safest way for them to travel anyway, and no need for more problems.
Okay, cool. So then it'll be the case that you will forge those documents and head along the hyperspace route all the way to Savarine next time. Okay, so let's do this quick chat about the experience and stuff like that. We'll just call it there. I think it's a good place to stop before we like kick on to the next part of this. Surprisingly long and convoluted fetch quest.
Yeah, I have a strange feeling that it's going to get more complicated before it gets easier. So I think
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's do what did your character learn today? And we'll start with you, Shell.
A lot of things. That the best way to be successful is to take initiative. That, at a certain point, you have to stop wondering what and if and how, and you just have to go and say, give me a job, pay me to do a thing, and then people will do it. Like there's a lot of respect for people who know their own value and are willing to place that on the table so openly. And he's also learned that his crew seems to lack that dedication, and that he's probably going to die because of them.
Yep, most likely. Okay, Alan, what did Kitra learn?
Keitra definitely learned that it's a lot easier to commit these criminal acts behind a screen. But when people, whether they're your crew or other lives are involved, it all becomes so complicated and feelings are involved and all this other stuff. And she's just got like a lot of history involving this current situation. So it's definitely hitting her a lot harder. At first, she was just like, "Yeah, this is going to be easy," and now it's just spiraling out of control. She's just like, "How did I end up here? This is not where I wanted to be."
Right, makes a lot of sense. The doctor?
Yeah, he definitely learned that this life out here, this type of life, will never stop surprising him. I think it'll never become predictable, and he's learning more and more just how cutthroat some of these people are, and some of the things that he's going to have to do are. And most importantly, he's learning that he's willing to do them.
Yep, there was definitely some dark side music playing at the end there, ignoring the begging slaves. Okay, and Captain, what did she learn today?
Captain Del Mega learned that that it's hard to manage people on the edge, and when she was on her own, she was able to make decisions in a more clearly structured way. But now that she's assembled these talents, she realizes that the things that make them strong are the things that might cause them to either be in trouble or diverge from a neutral path away from this war. She also learned that that her strongest talent she also learned that the strongest talents in the team are met with equally strong vices. That that Shell Tosca's desire for power would possibly supersede the crew if not checked. That Keetra's heroism, if unguided, would lead to an early death for her as well, and that the doctor was holding back true feelings, and that would be a note that she would keep for herself. What she learned about herself is that she's too old for this fucking shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, so then I'm gonna pick like a favorite moment that another character did, and let's start with the captain. So, if the rest of you guys, what was your favorite or like a moment that you liked?
Honestly, the very last moment, I think, says a whole lot about the captain. That like once it became obvious that the crew had made a decision that we were going to work with these slaves, that she would then go immediately after that and then supersede her own crew vote that she put in place as a leader to do what she personally feels is right, is like very, very interesting in a very cool way. I hate it. It's going to ruin everything, but it's fantastic and I love it.
Yep, that's mine as well.
Yeah, that final scene was just great end to this first session, and setting things off for the sort of how the campaign's going to go. Set a good tone for the conflicts, inner and interpersonal, that we're going to have. But I also just really loved the little details of the NPCs, actually, the overseer and the middleman guy. They were both great. Did a good job of sort of immersing us in this shitty world that they live in.
Alan, do you have like a favorite bit for the captain?
Favorite bit for the captain. Yeah, I would definitely agree that I like how as a leader there's this inner conundrum, right? Like I have to be the authority, and I have these rules in place. I set these in place, but at the end of the day, do I do what's right or do I follow my own rules? So I think that's definitely a very interesting point of view for a character.
Sorry, just quickly jump back in there. I clearly misunderstood that question. Favorite part for this session, specifically for the captain, was the constant struggles. I liked the visual of her sitting in her chamber with the intercom feed on, with the whiskey, sort of having to make that call of, all right, let's have this meeting and try and put my authority down.
Yep. I love the Nikto at the start, and that like there was a lot of like yes anding, which I really liked. It was just like you made up this dude, and then it was just nice. Okay, so then we have the doctor.
Honestly, I'm caught between the doctor's insecurity about role and deep loathing of role when it came to a really hard situation, and it makes me look forward to the time when the doctor is needed most, because it will have a heavier impact.
Yep. For me, you go, Jeff.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was like a super small moment, but that was like super cool for me. Obviously, like the thing at this with the end with the slave was great, but like what really stood out, at least for me, was like the very beginning when the doctor is like at the bar with this like huge like medical grade syringe just like sitting on the bar, and like everyone's like keeping a wide berth. It's just like it's such like a weird mixture of like he's at the bar, so he wants to be around these people in this environment, but he also doesn't want people to be like right there around. Like he's clearly put this out in display to give himself some space and to like make people think that he's strange and not interact with them. So it's just like the super kind of weird mixture of like I'm with the crew, but I don't want to be here, but I'm also going to be great and do things anyways. It was a super interesting little detail that I'm keen to see explored a little bit more.
Yeah, I would say for me it was definitely the interaction with the bar bot there. That was really nice. And then you can tell, at least from this first session, like the doc is like the quiet one. Like he doesn't say anything. Like he gives his opinion when he feels like he needs to. Otherwise, he's just observing. And then it's like he's trying to just like hold. He's like trying to hold back. He's like trying to detach himself like a doctor would in certain situations so that he doesn't try to feel, because I think if he tries to feel, then he'll feel more human, so to speak, and which could cause issue, especially on the outer rim. So
Yeah, I really liked the end. I thought it was like must have been very difficult not to like do anything, but I think it like makes a lot of sense that a doctor like that would just compartmentalize it, and like think of like the most important thing, which is like not getting killed yourself to some extent. But yeah, that was cool. Okay, and then Shell.
for Shell, I would definitely say the interaction between and the overseer were great. I liked. I definitely felt like just overall, it's like Jeff, just the character, the type of character that you were looking to make. You made it, and you were playing it to a T. I could really feel like this character is all like, I'm out for me, and I'm going to do what's in my best interest. And you can either come along or you can get swept aside, and I don't care. So, either come along with me and reap the rewards or fall to the wayside. So I really felt that, and like this is the kind of guy, like he would sell his own mother if it would get him ahead in the game, right?
Just real quick, my favorite moment was when you were like, look at these. And it's just like, what? That was like so good. So good. It was like perfect, like some summation of this dude who's just like, it's property. I get it. Like, what's the big deal? It was great.
Yeah, that was excellent. I just love how sort of well you've realized the character already, Jeff. Like Alan said, definitely comes through, and just the passion that you're channeling into him, and the fact that you're sticking to your guns and holding nothing back, even though, like you said in the chat, real life Jeff hates Shell. You feel so slimy, but it's like just excellent. Just really going for it with that ambition and that.
Yeah, my favorite moments are definitely like deliberate in character interruptions, and like commitment to the bit, as everyone has said. It's well developed, and I myself like struggled a little bit on figuring out what my character would do in these kind of situations, but this like Shell knew exactly what Shell was doing in every situation. However, like we see the complications of that, and that's the beauty of the fact that you put this kind of character into this crew, a character with ambitions that like are extremely larger than this group of people. So I like that I could hear that in every interaction with every person. You were thinking of the next time you interacted with them, not the next time the crew I interacted with them, and that was cool to see play out in character.
For sure. Okay, and then Kitra.
I loved the this like, and this is gonna sound like as Shell it's an insult, as Jeff it's like a genuine compliment. Just the brash naivety that she has. Like this is like just how much that it's like someone who like doesn't necessarily know what they've gotten themselves into, and is kind of realizing that. It's really interesting to kind of see that development, that moment that suddenly it's gone from hacking computers and trading spice to like dealing people. Like immediately within the first 5 minutes of finding out that we're gonna trade slaves, she's already trying to sneak out and mess with them and find a way to subvert this. And it's like it's just so insane, like to do that. But it also says so much about her as a person, that she'd both stand up for like the moral choice, but also in a way that's very like petty and vindictive. Like it's not like I'm gonna help the slaves. It's I'm gonna mess with the slavers to make their life worse, because that's all I can do. That's all I have the power to do. So I loved that moment, especially of her sneaking away and trying to hack into the computer. It was just so brash and overconfident in a fantastically amazing way.
Yeah, that was excellent. I really loved the way, Alan, that you portrayed Kitra while she's at the terminal, like just the sort of running dialogue, running stream of consciousness as she's sort of like, it's just really immersive the way you did that. That was excellent. And yeah, just her sort of personality and her sort of youthful attitude is really cool.
My favorite moment. Well, I mean, there were a lot. It's for all of you, but like my favorite. I have a couple. There was definitely the there's definitely the desire to create that kind of ruckus in the first place with the terminal. Shows like I agree. It shows this kind of rebellious but sort of playful whimsy that was starkly contrasted with the slave bits later on. So I liked that. I could hear Ray's theme music playing when you were trying to hack that terminal. So that was really cool. But actually, my favorite was just like your interaction with Chip very early when you got a success. that was awesome, and I don't know. I'm interested in since you've already so well developed this character. I'm interested in seeing the dynamic between you and Chip a little bit more going forward, because that was awesome, and I was like, oh man, these guys are buddies, and I'm excited about it. But like begrudging buddies at times because they have to work together.
Perfect. Okay, so you'll each get 20 XP that you can use to. I think you all know how to do that, but if not, we can talk about it in between. But yeah, thanks very much, guys, for playing. And if you watched, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time.